Hey
mamas,
mamas.
welcome back to a new season, guys. We hope you enjoyed the Daddy Takeover intro. So I'm Jess.
I'm Erica.
And some of you may or may not know, but last week was Sexual Abuse and Sexual Violence Awareness Week. So this is your trigger warning. And obviously here we are with the hard conversation. We are going to be speaking to this lovely, beautiful woman that will be sharing her experience with us. So yeah, how are you ladies?
I'm having heart palpitations at the moment because I'm so nervous.
Why are you so nervous?
I don't know, like Jess says, it's just such a hard conversation. At no point do I want to seem intrusive or like get too much detail out of you because I've never experienced something like that. So I don't want to bring back old memories and stuff.
Oh no, trust me, girls. I think this is the reason why I even accepted this whole podcast. It goes back to so many questions that people deep down inside want to ask, and I would love for you two girls to feel as free as you possibly can to ask whatever questions in your mind. Because I know at the end of the day, I think you ladies are moms and you want to be careful of the people that you bring your children around.
Mama's Code. We have some ice-breaking questions. Go for it.
What celeb would you go to breakfast with and why?
Oh, I think it has to be Albert Einstein because me and him were born in the same day and month. We have very similar ideologies, philosophies and stuff like that. So yeah.
So what's the first thing you would ask him?
I want to know everything about 314. What is it that is the 314 that got you to understanding everything about physics, quantum physics, basically everything? I wouldn't even know where to start to begin.
And last question, what's one thing you would do to change the world?
Good question. What would be that one thing? I think to allow children to have that liberation of finding their purposes in this life so they can be our new world leaders.
Oh, interesting. Definitely. So, what is your career? What do you do for a living?
So my career has been in beauty, therapy, and hairdressing. Recently, I am studying psychology and neuroscience, just because my industry has involved a lot of therapy, and you come across a lot of clients that tend to tell you their story. So I think it has shifted from vanity to more mental health, if anything.
I mean, they do say you end up telling your whole life story to your beautician or your barber, or it's always easier to speak to someone you don't actually know.
It is easier. And the funny thing, I find that some clients are not comfortable talking about their personal things towards their own people that they know that. And you even have people who are not comfortable going to therapy, but they're okay telling a hairdresser or a barber or a beautician, their personal life.
Yeah, I agree. I've had my eyelashes done multiple times. And when I just sit there, I'm just like, yeah, and then this happened. And then after a while, I'm like, why am I telling her this? Like, she doesn't even know me.
But didn't you feel like a bit liberated?
I did, yes. Felt like a weight came off my shoulders.
And it's like, thanks, babe.
Free therapy.
Lashes, happy therapy, yes. Have you girls ever tried therapy before?
Yeah, we both have. I think Erica's had probably more sessions than I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had my fair share.
How did you girls feel about it?
The first time I had therapy, I think I was like 15. And I was very hesitant to talk because my therapy was because of my parents. They were splitting up. It was kind of like her kid, his kid kind of situation. And I learned quite a lot about myself, but I was very quiet, didn't really say much. And I feel for the most part, my mum kind of had a say on what I could and couldn't say. So sometimes I felt stuck in not being able to fully express myself. But after a while, I just kind of said what I had to say. And I feel like that's why I'm very outspoken now. If I don't like something, I will say it. And then recently, I think it was like 2 years ago, was suffering from depression. So I went into therapy again. This time it was very different because obviously I have children now. And I thought, if I sit here and I tell this person what I'm thinking, they're going to come in and take my children away. So again, started off very hesitant. I think for the first 2 sessions, I didn't say anything. And then I kind of just opened up again, learned so much from my journey.
Oh, that's so good for you. Congratulations, babe. Trying to find that journey on healing. I think healing is such an important thing in humans, a way of moving forward from whatever you're challenging with. And if you allow that and embrace that, I think it eases a little bit your lifestyle. You don't have that, taking over your mind.
I remember the first time I actually came across like a psychologist, a mentor, was actually in secondary school. Ex-friend of mine at the time, she was like, oh, you should come with me to one of my sessions, you get to miss class and whatnot. So she invited me in, and I remember sitting there hearing her talk about how she was self-harming and how she'd fallen into depression over summer holidays. And I was sitting there like, whoa, this is too much. Like, I did not expect to hear this. And I remember leaving that room like, can I ask you, why did you never tell me? Or, like, are you okay? Do you need, like, what the hell? And she was like, no, it's fine. Like, I've not been lucky to succeed. And I was like, what the fuck? But obviously respectful at the time. But then from then on, I decided to take on a few less sessions. And I realized that I was so resentful for my parents splitting up. I realized that I had never actually got over it. Like, I never forgave either of them. And I think I realized how much you push to the back of your head and you think, because it's not affecting me, then I'm fine. And I remember at the time I got involved with like this church, and my friends were like, yeah, you should come to this like spiritual what was it, un reencuentro, like, when you go away and you like lock yourself up for like the weekend. And it was all about healing and forgiving. And I remember doing an activity, and the pastor was like, okay, we're going to start, forgiving people that have done us wrong or whatever. And he was like, just shout out the name and say, I forgive you. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't forgive you. And he was like, come on, say it louder, say it like at the top of your lungs. And I was like, no, I can't. And I said it like softly, but deep down I was like, I can't forgive this. Like, it was just too much. The people involved in the whole situation, like, it really fucked up my like young adulthood, which at the time I just, kind of, like I said, push it to the back of your head and you just don't really speak about it. But then obviously as you grow, you become more mature and you start realizing why, adults do things they do. I can live with it now, but I don't think I've just kind of not hold a grudge, but it's just there's something still there.
Are you afraid of discovering things that you're not ready to digest just yet?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's more like, I guess, not wanting to have that same lifestyle in my home, like, or I think it's just more pride, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll say it's more the pride thing. I think it's natural. It really is. Unfortunately, when we allowed our pride or our ego or our insecurities to, make that step, I think it stops us from really embracing exactly all these flaws. Now, I'm a very solitude person. I love people, don't get me wrong, but I like to be by myself. I like to sit down and just like gather all my thoughts and organize them. When it comes to the digestion of information that you're not ready to take, because obviously as a human you have emotions, but then that comes from attachment. And when you take away the attachment away and you go through this mental process and you digest the things you don't really want to have a think about, you have to try find a way where you can vision it through a positive, and then that way you'd be much more easier for you to think, okay, well, it's something that is part of me. It's something that I can't neglect, because you wouldn't neglect your children, right? And if your child had something similar to it, you would want to have an answer or some kind of habit that you can teach them to maybe come out from that mental slavery, because that's really what it comes down to. And you hold yourself from so many opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the most part, you always, as humans, find attachments to situations. So you kind of associate it all together and somehow you're back to square one. But I definitely need to embrace it and just stand in my truth.
Do it. Embrace it, babe. I say anyone, this is something that unfortunately in the society that we live in this system world, in first world, I think is really hard for people to really just let go of and be like, you know what? I want to have a tranquil life. And this thought or this trigger or this is not letting me move forward. And when you actually take your time to teach yourself this pain so you can understand it. And then from once you understand it, you're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Well, I don't want to apply it into my life. I don't want to apply it to my everyday thing. So, I appreciate, it's good to know that this is something that I have. This is a flaw. I'm okay with it. I know how to use it next time. And if something that the whole scenario repeats to you and it triggers you and it leads you back to that thought that you don't like to be in, I think is your reaction towards it. And I think that allows you to change, and it doesn't become so much of a trigger anymore. It becomes more of something that you outgrow yourself, and you will feel it and you will know it.
You break the shackles. And sorry, but you've basically got your degree already. So yeah, I feel like I've let it go now.
This is my breaking point.
Like my niece Lainey would say, let it go, just let it go.
So obviously this brings us on really nicely into your Child Lives Matter post. I know I can speak for both myself and Erica that when we saw this, we thought, wow, like it was painful to read it. And we thought she's so courageous to, put something out onto the Instagram like that, because everyone always shows their highlights. No one really likes to show their dark bits or, But why did you decide to share this with everyone?
The reason, I've always been open about it. I think from the day I was comfortable to talk about it and to other people instead of, social media. I've realized social media right now is becoming such a big thing for so many people, and people are being so easily influenced by it. So there's a way that I can use my platform to have people to be aware of this situation, that it gets ignored by like if it's nothing, like pedophilia is actually okay. And so putting it out there, it was not just for myself to feel okay and stuff, like, because I've been feeling massively great. I think it's just to bring awareness to people that, hey, if you have a child and you like to be surrounded by people, keep an eye out, because the same way as children are being taken by technology, it's the same as adults. And sometimes we don't really focus on those children. So it's being aware of who you're bringing your children to, the world that we live in, the things that you introduce them to. There's always some kind of subliminal message out there that leads on to pedophilia. So that's why I wanted to do it. I wanted people to start standing up for children because, like I said, they are the new world leaders. And if we want to continue living in in the world that we're living in, we can just continue turning a blind eye. But if we don't, then it's time to wake up. And also for people that has gone through it, I want them to feel fucking brave. Be courageous. Say that you went through it. Don't shy away. Don't be embarrassed. People unfortunately, people go through these things. And it's not the best thing because, again, it's such a sensitive subject. But I'd rather put this information out than to put my naked body out there and try get the wrong attention. And I have put myself out there. And I think back then it was the wrong reason. But now it's like, we need to bring awareness. We need to let families, friends, just people know that you just don't fuck with my kid. It's that simple.
I know for you, it might be like really hard to say. What would you say are some of the red flags that parents should look out for? Because like, obviously it's a really tricky one because it can be anyone. And me and Jess were talking about this before. Like it could be literally your best friend and he could be sitting in the room and then one day a switch just goes off and then they're touching your child. It can be your dad. It can be your uncle. It's how do we aim to trust so many people with our life, basically, because that's what our children are to us.
It's those hungry eyes. It's like, when you're walking in the street and you're looking all cute and everything, and then you got a guy just going, hey, mamacita, And then they got those hungry eyes going. It's those same eyes, but on a child. You know, when you go to family events, keep an eye open. Don't change your child. I've seen this so many times from moms. And, you know, I say this because basically 95% of my girls are moms. But I see this a lot where moms change the nappies in front of, you know, people, family, friends. And it could be a male as much as it could be a female. You know, you wouldn't do a piss or a shit in the living room where everyone is watching you and wiping your ass, would you? So don't do that with a child. You know, don't expose a child. I know many parties back in the day, growing up, you know, they used to make you dance a Shakira song or a salsa song in the middle while every other family member's watching you. Don't do that, especially when it comes to little kids and like very sensual music. Don't expose them like that, because first of all, and I'll tell you because I remember, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because as the same as you as a woman will know when a man is giving you that dirty look where it's like, I'm ready to eat you up, or those x-ray views where they can see exactly straight through your body. It's the same thing as they do with children. So I'll definitely say, be careful who you put your child in front of. And yes, unfortunately, in my case, it was family members, you know, and it was the closest family members. I never thought in a million years would ever do such a thing, you know. And I grew up in a very, very strict home. And even with that, it doesn't matter. There's just no way around it. You just protect your children. If you have girls, teach them how to protect themselves. If you have sons, teach them not to hurt another woman or take advantage of another woman. But again, vice versa. If you have girls, teach them that too. Teach them self-defense. Teach them to speak up. I think in my case, I was very afraid of telling the truth to my parents, or especially my mom, because when I arrived to this country, it happened way before coming to this country. So I came here when I was 6. So it happened way before that. And I thought I was getting away from it. And my mother trusted this person because he was a family member. She trusted him with her whole heart because they were best friends. And well, she would go out to work and whatever. I was left behind with this man. And this man would just have his way with me. My mom was 8 months pregnant. When she had my baby sister, she, you know, as a working mom that she is, she's so hardworking. Like, I'm so grateful to have her in my life for all the things that she did for me to make sure that nada me falle, nada me falte. Lo único was that she didn't really know what was going on. So that surprised her, and it was already too late when I told her. But I was already a child full of resentment. And then this man, he used to, when my mom would leave me with this man and my baby sister would be a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and he would have these like really hungry eyes. And I knew those eyes. So what I used to do was put myself in front of my baby sister. So instead of him taking a baby, just continue doing damage to me. Like, for me, you know, as a child, it's like, you know, when you get the beats from your parents and it doesn't hurt anymore, it's kind of like that. You're so used to the abuse that it becomes so normal to you.
I'm sorry that you had to go through such a horrible thing, and I know that you've healed and you embrace your journey, but I just think no child should ever go through that. And like Erica said, even the own dad is capable of doing things to their child. We've heard so many stories, and I just think there's a very thin line there. Also, not normalizing it to your child that they can go toilet with whoever. And
if you bring awareness to people, you'll be able, and to your friends, to your groups, you know, word of mouth will go around, and whoever has a problem with it, they either gone through it or they want themselves, you know, because putting it out there, putting my information out there was also letting pedophiles know that you do not, it's not acceptable. in my life or the children around me or children in general, because I know in some countries it's been put down as a disorder. You know, if you look at Greece, their law it's been put down as a disorder. Disorder, and if you look at it in India, even though it happens a lot down there, lo matan a uno. You know, it's not something that they take very lightly anymore. So you will be punished. And I think in a country like Europe and UK, they don't have those kind of laws as much as I wish it did, but they don't have those kind of laws. So what we can do is really just bring awareness and then just teach your children these things. I know it's uncomfortable, you know, they're going to start teaching children how to touch themselves and stuff like that from the age of 6, you know, and I think that's crazy. But, you know, all this new education is being brought out to children about sexualize and feeling yourself. And some countries, pedophilia, they put in the pedophilia flag with the LGBT, you know, writing petitions down to be against that. I mean, all of those little things, your children will grow up and be aware, and they will come to you and say, Mommy or Daddy, this person is touching me. There was once this video I saw and it broke me. It really triggered me. And it was a little girl in the States, and her mom and her dad have been going through custody. I don't know if you girls saw this. This was like on the first lockdown. This video was going super viral, and she's 6. And I felt her. I literally felt her pain. And her mom and her grandmother was trying to take her out the car when the little girl was in the middle of the seats, you know, the back seats. She was sitting right in the middle, like rogándole to not take her out. She didn't want to go to her mom's house. You know why she didn't want to go to her mom's house? Because the boyfriend was molesting her. You know, if you're going to jump into a new relationship and you're a single mom, be careful with some guys out there. Some guys have really, 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 really like pure heart. And the same with women. But you also have the opposite. So this little girl was shouting to her dad, please let me go with you. And the dad, you know, he was trying his hardest to calm her down, because obviously under law, after going under custody with trying to have the child permanently, he didn't want to create more of a spark just in case it will. But the mom was really much naive about the boyfriend touching her daughter. And the grandmother thought she was just throwing a tantrum. And then people wonder why you end up saying these kind of things years down the line, because they don't really listen to children. And I think a child as a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, you know, kids, obviously they lie, but you know when they're lying.
Even younger, when they don't feel that energy around a certain individual, they don't want to say hi or they don't want to hug the person, that already shows some sort of, oh, maybe the child just doesn't like the person.
No, a child always knows about energies, like the vibrations that it releases out of your body, that vibe that you get when you meet someone is the same as a child. It's really much the same as a child. When my niece was little, my sister and her husband never really had her too much with strangers. I'm not saying strangers, but that was a mom and dad, you know, like carrying her around, holding her, you know, when sometimes an uncle be like, oh, I'll give you this lollipop if you give me a hug. That whole manipulation shit, I don't agree with. So my niece was very much like, I won't hug you unless I really like you and I know that you're pure. Don't touch me. Don't force me. Or don't kiss me. You know, she was taught that from a really, really like when she came out. And I think that's such a good thing that my sister and my brother-in-law did that, because, you know, she's 4 years old and the girl has, you know, she has her boundaries. She knows that people cannot step her boundaries, and she will tell you no. Teaching children to have a voice and just putting their foot down will also make an adult be like, oh, okay, especially for predators.
I think that what you were saying there, teaching children to have a voice, is very true. But also within our culture, it's not accepted, because if a child has a voice, it means they're not following instructions. You know, they're being groseros, like, oh, my child can't talk back to me. Different things like that. But like sometimes I remember once my oldest son was like putting his point across, and he was like, it was kind of like a back and forth argument with my husband. So my husband said, well, no, you can't talk back to me. I didn't say anything, but then after I was like, well, he's just voicing his opinions. Like, if you're saying something to him, how do you expect him not to retaliate? You know, like, it's the same way if you're having a discussion with someone else. What if that person stayed quiet? You'd think, hang on a minute, why aren't you talking? What, just because he's 6, it doesn't mean he can't and will not say what he's feeling.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of underestimation when it comes to children. Again, you know, those things are just, you know, what your husband did to your son, I think it's just habits from, like you said, our culture. You know, I remember my dad used to say things like that, like, when I'm talking, you stay quiet. But because I was so rebellious, I'm like, blah, 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 you know, you don't shut me up. I've always been very like, I don't like being told what to do. And, you know, I'm the adult, you're the child, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. You know, changing those habits, I think as an adult, what I learned throughout the years is reprogramming yourself. And like I said before, these human experiences that we grow as a child, so which means that we still have the capacity of changing that and reprogramming ourselves for once we are adults. Because what I believe in is, once you're an adult, it's your responsibility to change your habits, break the chains, break all of the things that you come with. It's your culture, it's your family, it's your religion. But if we was to strip all of that, who are you, ladies? If we was to strip everything, the mum role, the parent role, strip all of that away, who is Erica? Until you're able to strip all of that off, you can basically see that, and then you would allow to stand up for your children in a sense of, I'm not saying you don't, I'm just saying in a sense of like allowing them to have, you know, feel liberated to speak. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. And that's just how I see it, even with children.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Mama, I love you.
How old were you when all this started? And did you know what was happening wasn't right?
Okay, so I think I was really, really young. I was really young. I know I was around four now, because I was still in Colombia until my mom decided to come to London. And the memory is so vivid in my head. It's so, like, I can tell you every little detail about it. And no, you don't, because you're still a child and you're still trying to discover emotions and feelings and stuff like that. So you just don't know. As a child, you know, when you're little, you learn how to play with blocks and sand and stuff. So once you see blocks and sand, you know that's to play with. But when you have someone telling you, show me the parts where mommy breastfeeds you from, or where the baby comes from, and, you know, all those things, and then you exposing them like it's normal. Why? Because it's a family member who's asking you. And, you know, my parents never really taught me to not be able to open up with people. So the innocence of a child, you just go with it because, you know, you're constantly being demanded to do things. So you take it as an order and you just do, and you expose your body and, you know, fulfilling the needs of these predators.
Did you tell your mom at that age or mention anything?
Yes, I do remember one night. It was in La Finca, and I did say to my mom, because I was curious, you know, this person kept on doing this, you know, more than once. So obviously as a child, you go to your mom and you just try to understand things. And I remember that person said it was another guy. So he was able to get himself out from it. And my mom was really she was upset, thinking that it was this guy who had nothing to do with it. It was just a worker and la finca. And really and truly, it was her best friend, so he knew how to manipulate this situation and get himself out of that. And coming to this country and being 6 years old, and you're isolated because Colombia compared to London, I mean, two different worlds. Let's begin there. I thought, oh my God, I don't even know where I am, but all I know is that I'm away from that person. I'm away from that experience. And then when I came across him again, I was like, holy fucking shit. I felt scared, like todo me temblaba, como que your heart starts racing, you start sweating, all of this. I'm not comfortable you doing that again to me. Feelings will come up because, you're older now, where certain touches should be and should not, because that's how your parents teach you.
Sorry to interrupt you. At that point when this person came, it was the same person that came to London, right? Did you feel like that anger and that kind of like that resentment and that, like, how did that weigh on you? Because that, like you said, with age, obviously you started to understand that maybe this is not right. And
so when I started feeling myself out of anger, I think it was having to be in this country away because for me it was my grandmother, the person that I would always count on. And my mom was always working, so it was just me and him. And as much as I didn't want to, you just go through it. You just you're so numb to it at that point. It stopped when I was 10 because I was able to speak up. I was already with so much anger. I was already with this really dark mindset. It just builds up all of this anger inside of you, and how this person is getting away with it. And you're also angry at yourself because you're allowing this person to do this to you. You're trying to find the power within you to just, destroy this person's life or kill this person's life. As a child, I was already thinking of murdering. I was thinking of killing. All of these dark thoughts was coming into my head. And so when it came to the time of me saying to him, enough is enough, I remember this so well. I was sitting in the couch and my parents was, when you go and sleep over your aunties and your uncles' houses and stuff. So, and then you go sleep in the same room and everyone was sleeping in the room. I wanted to go play some games on the TV. He woke up like a few minutes afterwards and he sat on the other side of the couch. And I remember his hand was just like in my upper thigh, like in between, like going down towards, those areas. And I looked at him and I was so angry, like this. When you're so angry, you just don't know what to do with yourself. You just want to scream. You literally just want to scream, like you're so tired of it. You just had enough. And I think that's where it got to me, where I realized this wasn't right. How are you going to be so sneaky while my mom and my dad and my sisters and your wife is on the other side of this wall? How can you have the cheek? How can you do this? I'm only a child. Like, I'm so tired of you taking so much of me. And when he did that, I remember I looked at him and then my face just looked like I tilted my head and I smiled. And I had like this really creepy smile with me. I was like, you like that, huh? You love that. You love it, don't you? And then you just, you start sounding como like wicked. So you love that shit, don't you? Go on. I dare you. I dare you to put your hand lower. I fucking dare you. And then I remember I was like, even open up my legs more for him, my arms. I'm like, come on, do it. Do what you need to do. Hágale. And then you will see who I'll wake up. And then I remember I was just like cussing him down and he looked at me and he was like calling me, you crazy bitch, everything under the sun. And I was like, see. No, tranquilo, siga. Mata is not next door. It's not like he won't fuck you up. Go on, continue. Touch me, just like how you like it. And then he was so afraid that I was able to speak to him like that never again.
At this point, did you tell your parents again?
No.
Or you didn't tell them? He just disappeared from your life, or is he still present?
Oh, I mean, he's disappeared from my life. He's still alive. He's still doing pedophilia shit and getting away with it, which I just don't understand how. I came to telling my parents when I was 19. I went to Colombia for quite a long while, and I told them, and they dismissed it, and I think that's one of the things that people didn't expect to know, that my parents also dismissed it. Like, you always went down to the house. You was okay by sleeping over. So why you mention it like it's such a bad thing now? And that confused me as fuck. And I remember I was with my uncle, and my uncle just looked at me like, what the fuck? And then I kind of got used to it. I kind of got used to people just like dissing me, like dismissing me to the side. So it didn't really even bug me. I just thought, okay. And for my uncle, his reaction really did fulfill me, because he was so pissed off. He gave the reaction of what I wanted my parents to react. I feel like once I saw that, he acknowledged me. He acknowledged that these things ain't right. And it made him understand a lot of my character, my personality, and the way I am.
Do they acknowledge it now, like your parents? Or do you think it was denial and it continues to be denial?
My dad kept on seeing it as a denial. So he sees it as nothing because he's a predator himself. So that, made a lot of sense of his thought process and stuff. But I think because he went through...
Wait, who, your dad?
Yeah.
Your dad's a predator?
No, my dad wasn't. To me, he wasn't.
Okay.
But he's one of them, or was one of them. And when I found that out, it made so much sense why he reacted that way. I think for my mother, she still didn't digest it. It was like a note, like in her head, like, oh, by the way, your daughter has been molested when she was young. And I think only now, because they're no longer together, only now she was able to really digest and be like...
To see that it's not normal, basically. Because if she's been with him for a while, it's like, oh, this is just como son los hombres. And, and which I understand why this has confused you. Yes, you're 19 and you're old, you're grown, you're a woman. Like, you understand that this is not right because you can read it on newspapers, TV, whatever. But I can understand that if that's the reaction you got from your parents, and you know that this was partly your dad as well, of course you're going to feel like, oh, pa que tanto show, like, I guess this is normal in a way,
And that's what they're doing right now. That's what they're trying to do. If you do your own research, you will find that they're trying to find many ways to normalize this behavior. And I don't think it's a behavior. I think it's just like a sickness.
Yeah. What's that gender? What is it that it's basically I'm allowed to be a child in in an adult body? What is it? That's like, that to me is just pedophilia. Yeah, like, why are you... So now if you state yourself as this gender or identify yourself as this, does that mean you can go around raping little children and molesting them?
Or have naked pictures of children on your computer?
Honestly, this fucking, like, it infuriates me.
Oh, I'm sorry, girls. I should be checking your emotions.
Like, as a society and as a world, like, how are people out there believing and preaching that this is right and that, this is a mental health issue? Yes, it is, because usted es un depravado. Why are you, as a woman or as a man, abusing little kids? Of course,
you need to have something wrong in your head to be able to physically abuse a child.
Definitely.
But you were dropped multiple times on your head.
But why are we now giving them a bracket they can identify in?
No, and also not just that, but like, say in the UK, well, in Europe, in the UK, I've seen loads of cases where pedophiles, you don't get to know who they are, but you have a pedophile living next to you, but that's okay. Like, how are they still allowed to be within the civilization? Like, there's children everywhere.
Well, they're protecting their life. So that we don't go and kill
But
them.
why? So who protects our children's lives? Who? If there's that we can't. It's just like the same thing. Like, you know, you can't identify a person that's out to get a child. It's physically impossible unless they make it pretty obvious. But I'm sure these people know how to, you know, like Vanessa said, manipulate. They know how to, you know, put on this fake face that, oh no, yes, lovely child, blah, blah, blah. But they don't do that. They only do it to a vulnerable child. So if the government, if these entities are so out there to protect these mental people when we don't have the power to protect our children, we only have the capacity to protect them a small amount of time. But then what happens to when it's not a child but it's a 15-year-old? What happens then? She's still a child. Like, if it's against your will, why is someone else getting protected but you as the victim aren't?
I mean, if I don't even want to tell you girls about the whole how much charges they get compared to, you know, someone selling pot around the corner. I mean, just even sending them to jail is not even nothing. Like, the years that's given to them is absolutely nothing compared to you stealing something from the shop or a woman speaking up for themselves, you know. So I think it's the attitudes that these people have is very much like a manipulator. If you are very aware of how people manipulate their words and their actions and the way that they're processing this information that they're going to tell you, it's looking at all of that. But, you know, it's me telling you girls, start learning how to do psychology, like read a part of psychology so you can, you know, target these people. And it's easy, and especially when you haven't gone through something like this. I can imagine it must be even much more harder because you just don't even know where to begin. What I would advise mothers out there is to teach yourself this information, teach your children, train your children. You know, I think parent is not that you own your child. You are the guardian of this child's life. You know, you guide them to the world out there. So be that person, be that mentor. Teach them all this information they need to know so they can be aware of all these things. And because they are going to be the new generation, hopefully they will be able to come up with ideas that can bring more awareness. And again, there's not even enough charities out there. There was, I think last year, there was one protest for pedophilia, child trafficking, child abuse, women abuse, and hardly anyone was there. And don't get me wrong, I was all there for the climate change protests, the Black Lives Matter, when it comes to equal rights, like I'm all there. But there was nothing for going against pedophilia, going against human trafficking, going against abusers. And I think if we was more able to be that drop in the bucket and make that bucket full, then we'll be able to keep our children safe. You know, there's a lot of things that is against the law for your child to have to protect themselves even as a woman. You know, as women, even throughout so many years, we have been used. And I think pedophilia comes from years, centuries of history where it was okay for teenagers to be married to an older person just so the family can have a better lifestyle. Because if you was to sell your daughter to a wealthy man, you'll be basically living a better life because you're buying off your daughter. And all that theories and knowledge has been passed down through so many centuries that only now we women are able to speak up compared to how many years we've been suppressed. Now let's do that for our children.
Mama's Code.
You know, as an adult, how did this affect your intimacy? It's very strange because obviously you go into a relationship and you don't really know much like about sex or, you know, touching here and there. And when you've been in a relationship prior to healing, did you ever have like flashbacks or like painful memories?
Absolutely. So in my relationships, it didn't fuck them up. I was damaged. I wasn't healed. So I will fuck up that relationship because of so much that I've gone through that I haven't been able to process it and heal from it. Sexually, I became addicted to sex as a way of escaping and just getting my way back at men for having to, in my mind, for the shit that they made me go through. But, that's me talking about every other man out there, which if there's one thing I've always said, and even through the experiences that I've gone through, is that men are not all the same. Because I have gems around me, and those guys are literally who I look up to, and makes me feel calm that there's men out there that they're actually really, really big-hearted, and they're not here to hurt you or the children around you. So yeah, it was going through a sex addict, and then after that, being in relationships where you can be the most happiest person, and all of a sudden that memory just goes, or your boyfriend might say something that person used to say, that the predator used to say. So it pushes you away from them, like, don't touch me, don't this and that.
Did you ever tell any of your previous relationships what you had gone through?
Yes, I did. I was I wanted to be comfortable to speak about it, but what I did not want was pity parties. I fucking hate that shit. I don't like to come across as the victim, come with a victim card. It just is what it is. It's like how you see a rainbow. It comes with all the colors. This is a rainbow. So it was very hard. And I think not just as an individual, but as a woman, it was really just constantly thinking, fuck, I'm going to jump into a relationship now. I really like this person, but then now I have to tell that person the truth about what's going on. I really don't want to talk about it because I know that once that I mention it, they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll be there for you. And you're like, you're fucking lying.
And then they cheat on you and fuck you up and leave you. Before you continue, it's because it's something that we don't speak of course the person is going to feel like, oh my God, pobrecita, I'm so sorry you had to go. We're probably going to say this at the end of the episode, like, we're sorry you had to go through that. But, it's not something that you say, oh, so like, what did you have for lunch today? Oh, I had this, and a side of abuse, like, So obviously for any guy to hear this and at a young age, adolescentes, we're not always mature enough to hear this. So we don't know how to react on it because we're like, oh my God, what do we do with this information? Like you were saying earlier on.
Well, I mean, it was like how you went into that therapy session, for your friend, and, everyone was telling their problems, and because it's not a normal thing to talk about, because once you start talking about your problems, people are like, oh my God, here we go again. And, and if that's what we're giving back to that person, especially between us women, how the fuck are we expecting to come out from this if we're just going to keep rolling our eyes around it, And many times a lot of people be like, when you talk about those things, try not to say much. And you're like, yeah, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. Like, I'm never going to have someone telling me what to do, what to say, keep my mouth. Basically, don't try and suppress me because I ain't about that life. Be bold, speak about this, speak about it with your females you guys might not even know there could be females in your family or your circle of friends that has gone through so much. And what's the funniest thing? Well, it's not really the funniest thing. The most cutest thing ever is that they're the most happiest people on earth. We don't deserve those gems. The ones that wants to make sure that you're happy, that you're moving forward in life. They will never make you feel less of who you are. They will always say you're gorgeous, you're beautiful. You never have a woman say, oh, yeah, don't dress like that because, it's outshining the rest of us. Don't do that. Don't do that shit. Because we women, we need to stick together. If that woman wants to embrace her figure, embrace her look, embrace her outfit, by all means. allow that person and you girls just keep clapping away, because when your moment comes, they're going to be clapping for you too.
You know, your first sexual encounter, was that difficult?
No, because, well, my first.
Yeah. Well, no.
It was confusing. It was because I'm like, why does it feel interestingly weird, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, but I think when it came to losing my virginity, or thinking in my head that I'm losing my virginity to someone that I'm giving the authorization to touch me, it was the most cutest time of my life. It was the most sweetest time. I think for me, it was just try to replace shitty moments with good moments, you know, knowing that, okay, I carry this background with me. I'm not going to stop living my life. I'm not going to stop myself from bringing happiness towards my life, tranquility, which is what I constantly desire. But no, it was amazing. It was amazing. And the person was such a gent. So I couldn't ask for a better person, honestly.
Having gone through what you've gone through, would you say it was hard to build trust?
Yes. I mean, building the trust now, because now I'm aware of it. Back then, it was easy for me to trust anyone because I didn't really knew what trust and loyalty or I didn't know what good meant or what good come with. All I knew was bad things. All I knew was dog shit. So if anyone was to give me a bit of love, like that little tiny bit, for me was like the whole nation. So yeah, I'm going to trust you, you know, because you're showing me this tiny little speck of love. And I'm like, you know, I haven't had that. But now, obviously, I'm surrounded, my circle is like full of love and positiveness and blah, 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 all of that, you know, that when it comes to me trusting someone, and if someone thinks that they're going to give me a speck of love, you better start thinking, right? Because I'm not going to throw my arms or trust you straight away like that. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not weird. I mean, as humans, we do tend to put up walls when we've experienced hurt and pain. So
compared to now, I'm like, hold on a second, because I've built boundaries, principles, morals. You know, I've become, if anything, very intolerable of shit. I'm not gonna just tolerate anyone to just think they can walk all over me, and that can be whoever they are.
I have one more question, and it's going back to what we touched on before. You know, when you say that, like the last time that your predator attacks you, do you not regret not having maybe screamed and let the people that were there know what he was doing? Or like, I don't know, like make it, because obviously for me, it's kind of like, I see it in a way like he's basically gotten away with it. His wife probably didn't find out or hasn't found out if he's still doing it, as you said. Your parents didn't fully see it, and maybe because you told them years later on, you told them 9 years later, right? So maybe they might have thought, well, you know, why didn't you tell us then and there? Why did you let so much time go past? What is it that we could do right now? Do you feel like any kind of guilt inside that you could have maybe... I say that, but then again, we've spoken about like they don't get any time anyways.
No, I don't regret nothing. I absolutely don't regret absolutely nothing. Because when you've been physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused, spiritually abused, there's only so much that you get knocked down from. And I think at that time, when someone is doing you those kind of things, you kind of tend to go numb. You just don't know what to do. And it's like someone, I don't know if you guys ever been like groped or anything in the train or whatever, and you know, you would think that you would straight away give them a slap or be like, oh, what are you doing? But no, and it's happened to me, and then I just stay still, and I start sweating, and I start feeling embarrassed, and I start feeling like I'm curling up into like a little ball into the corner of the train tracks. You just don't know what to do. When someone catches you out of guard, you just never know what to do in that situation. I think in that sense, I would have loved to learn how to do Tai Chi. Apart from that, yeah, you're very off. You don't know how to react because it's just so sudden. You're like, oh shit. And then maybe the next day, you're like, what the fuck just happened?
The reason why you don't regret doing something and shouting out, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because in that very moment on that sofa that you opened your legs and said, come and get what you've been doing. Just by doing that, you took back that power. You took back that ownership of your body and control of the situation, and that fucking scared him. It's very courageous because it could have gone one way or the other.
Absolutely. When you're stuck with people like this, and I mean, again, it can be pedophiles. It can be people that physically abuse you, people who mentally abuse you. You never know how to go around it. But if there's one thing I would say is stand up for yourself. Don't be scared. Even when you're feeling like you're about to shit your pants, but stand up for yourself. No matter how many shits that comes down those pants, just stand up for yourself. Say it. No le miedo. Diga cómo son las cosas. Never bring yourself down as well. Because, there's many times that we've all been in the shower and we've thought about, a time where you want to really have that argument with that person. You're like, damn, I wish I would have said that.
Oh my God, you say that. And I remember once we went out, long story short, I got into a fight. I'm not a fighter yet, like I'm all peace and love. And I started a fight, and then there was only one exit to the club, and all of us were shitting ourselves because I was with my partner and someone I used to know, and there was only one exit. There was 10 of them and like 3 of us, so we were like, nah. And they were all like really big people, and I'm like 5'2" or some shit like that, like I'm minion size. And they were like, for fuck's sakes, Jess. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I just had to stand up for myself. And anyways, by the end of the night, they all had like bruises and scratches, and I think we were going to go to hospital because we thought, oh my God, my boyfriend's got a concussion because he freaking had a bottle straight to his forehead. And I was fine. Like, I didn't even have one scratch. Like, my hair was still tidy after everything. It was just so funny. Funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time, and they hated me for it. But hey,
I bet you was like, come, let's go get some kebabs now.
What's a night out with no kebabs? So before we wrap up the episode, I just wanted to read this out from your Child Lives Matter post. Observing predators, how they get away with it, I made a decision of not wanting kids of my own, not bringing children to this world that we live in. Do you think, obviously, what happened to you influenced this, and does it hurt you to know that this has been taken away from you?
No, absolutely not. I think, girls, we live in a new modern age. I think as we women, we can now make a decision to be moms, not be moms, be married, not be married, be in a relationship with yourself. But it's always been something that I've never wanted, and a lot of people think is that because of what I went through. Yes and no. Yes, because obviously knowing that there's so many predators out there, I have no control of looking after my child. If I did have a child, that kid will be in a cupboard in a little box, not growing. Like, it would be like so precious to me. I wouldn't want anyone to even look at it, staying up with like the evil eyes and stuff. But I think in my last relationship, I actually did consider it because I thought, oh my God, such an amazing person. This is his dreams. this is what he wants to be. So yeah, like I'm so down for it. I will give him that because he makes me happy and I want to make him happy. And obviously I'm a female. I make the babies. After the relationship, I'm kind of happy that never happened because it is a responsibility that I don't want. You know, some people were made to be mommies. And again, 95% of my girls around me are mothers. Even when I left home, I've been surrounded by women who are moms. So, and single moms and moms that have been strong women who have been brave to bring up their child and protect them and listen to them and nurture them and discipline them, you know, all of these things. And I get it all the time, like, oh, babe, you're so good with kids. You should be a mom. You should be a mom one day. And it's like, no, babe, I'll leave that for you. Bring your kid over. I'm happy knowing that I don't want to be a mom. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I think it was made for women or even men who want to have that parent role. And that for me is not it. And, you know, I know, I don't know if you, both of you girls follow my niece's Instagram. I mean, since she was born, my life practically changed completely. You know, she really put things in perspective into my life where I had to sort out my shit. You know, I had to get my shit together because this little girl is going to grow up to be a woman one day, you know, and I want to make sure that I have all the equipment that she needs for her to not feel like she needs to run to other strangers. Obviously, she will always have her parents, and she's lucky to have the parents that she has. I love her to bits. She's practically like, the love I have for her is like if she was mine, you know. And when I look at her and her fierce way and her bold ways, and you know, she's such a lady, and like she's such an amazing child. And I look at her, and even she looks like me. So I'm like, wow, it's just weird. So it's kind of like I've already fulfilled that. Thanks, Karen. I've already fulfilled that kind of feeling inside. So it's just you get to give them back.
Yeah, nah, you don't want none of that. But you know what? In this podcast, we salute the women that proudly say that they are not made to be a mom and that kids won't fulfill them, because as a society have moved away from those generations that, you know, the woman has to make babies, the woman has to stay home. Like, we are so much more empowered. And yes, I know that word is thrown around so much nowadays, but it's the truth, you know. And we now can make our own decision as to, you know what, no, I don't want any kids, not because I don't like kids, but just because that's not in me, and that's absolutely fine. Like, some people find fulfillment in their careers. Some people, like some mothers, yes, they have kids, they absolutely love their kids, but that doesn't mean that that child has fulfilled you 100%. Even I've questioned myself, like, do I find fulfillment in being a mom? I question it all the time, because yes, I love my son to the last bone and hair on his body. Like, I would die for him. That there's no doubt in that. But if anything, he's given me a purpose to be better than what I am and what I can be, and to do it for myself, not for him or not because of him. And the thing is, with that comes the fact that you're teaching them to always pursue their happiness before leaving that to someone else, or before making someone else responsible of their happiness, basically.
And in a way, I don't feel like I need to have a child to be like, I'm a mom. No, I've had so much young friends that, you know, they look up to me like a mother. They look up to me because I have those nurturing ways and those understanding ways. Listen, when it comes to me, my circle is literally non-judgmental. So feel free to feel liberated. You know, subjects that you don't really talk to people at work or even your own friends, because, you know, they're uncomfortable touching so many subjects. But what I was going to say, there is this book, The Prophet. He explains, I read this book years ago, and there was a page where he basically put it in words exactly how I see children, parents and children, that relationship, because most of the time I feel a lot of parents are like, it's my child, like they take ownership of the child. And I completely understand that, but they are little humans and you lot are the guardians. You don't own them. When I see that children are not really able to express themselves because they're my child, I tell you what to do. And it's like, actually, no, they're a child of the universe. You are the guardian. Teach them what they can do. Teach them what they can go out there and feel like they're accomplishing all their purposes that the universe has for them. So yeah, I would say I recommend that book. Have a little read.
The Conscious Parent as well is a great book, guys, which as well teaches us that they're not our mini-me's. We're not making them how we are, where we need to make them their own better person, because we've said it a million times, guys, we are raising the next generation. We are raising a better world, and yeah, we need to fix a lot of inherited habits. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. It's been very insightful. It's been an eye-opener, and it's just really interesting to hear someone that has gone through it. And like we've said, not a lot of people like to speak on it because many reasons. Having said that, we like to close up on a golden tip. So what's your golden tip? This is your time to shine.
Oh, my time to shine. I mean, you guys already made me shine for the past 2 hours. My advice would be, my tip, my everything is just to embrace yourself. Have a relationship with yourself, but one like you've never had one before, because we need you. We need you, ladies. Your kids need you. Your husband needs you. My employees need me and stuff like that. So we need to fulfill ourselves. We need to go out there and fulfill ourselves and not be ashamed of anything. Face your fears, face your flaws, whatever you do. And this is like a little ritual that you guys can do every night before you go to bed, is when you take a shower away all that negativity. When you cream yourself, give back that self-love that you expect others to give. Give that to you, because you wouldn't want your child or any loved one to go out and look it between yourself. And once you find that, trust me, it's an addiction. So do that. Embrace yourselves, girls.
Say it louder for the ones in the back. You heard it, guys and girls. And you know what? I'm so sorry for your employers, and thank you so much. I promise you it's for a good cause.
They know. It's fine, honestly. It's fine. You girls made me dress up, so thank you.
It's been lovely having you.
Yeah, if anything else you ever need, ladies, you know where I'm at. If you ever want to have like a conversation on the side, I'm so down to hearing you, ladies, okay?
Absolutely. Maybe for therapy, again. We felt liberated today.
Yeah, go crazy. Honestly, I think the more... Also, like, I want people to feel comfortable. There's people out there that are studying, all these things, and they have major qualifications. So it helps to also see an outsider point of view. It really does. It really does. Don't keep yourself stuck. Don't put yourself in quicksand. Get that help.
Mama's Code out. Mwah.
Mama's Code.